Alright everyone, we're at Tuesday and tonight the UEFA Champions League gets underway. We have to wait until tomorrow to make our mark though, but that just gives us an extra day to chat about Celtic and to look ahead to this tasty opener against Slovan Bratislava. Later in this video we're going to get the lowdown on our Slovakian opponents by speaking to commentator, host and reporter Marek Arpas. But before then, we need to make do with John. John, it's funny. It's almost like the start of the new season. This is how it feels.
We're in that stage of somewhat naive optimism about what's ahead. That glorious phase where you're not concerned about how we've played in Europe and still think that we could maybe do something in it. At least that's how I feel. And I'm going to ride this wave of naive optimism all the way until we can't anymore. But hopefully it continues beyond tomorrow because the team are in a really good place and I'm really excited to see what they can do in this 8 games.
Right, we will come on to tomorrow's game, definitely. First of all, the weekend win over Hearts. What did you think? Was it just a case of job done? Was it better than that?
It was job done, I think, but it was odd because, for my sins, I was listening back to some of the kind of the BBC, etc. podcasts, and they were kind of slaughtering Celtic a wee bit, which I thought was a little bit odd, to be honest with you, because I thought Celtic were in full control of the match for the vast majority of it until, the kind of inevitable nervy ending. But I thought we created enough chances to be, a couple of goals up by the interval, didn't quite manage to take those. And then the second half was competitive to an extent, but I never felt like Celtic were going to lose or drop points, really. And I thought, there were some positive signs with some of the new guys coming in. It was obviously not as good as before the international break, but but it's unrealistic to expect us to blow away teams every single week. So I was pretty happy with what I witnessed, and I didn't really have any real concerns about what I saw on the pitch on Saturday.
Yeah, I think, as I said yesterday, I think if you rewatched the game, you'd be really calm watching. And to be fair, even at the time, as you say, there wasn't ever really a moment in the game where I thought Hearts were going to score. I think my worry was that we just became a bit sloppy in the second half, and it felt as if we were inviting them onto us. But they only really had that one chance. It was kind of a half chance, wasn't it? Whereas we created 5 or 6 really good chances.
Yeah, that's the way I see it. What did you make of Engels' debut then? Or just what were your thoughts on it? I'm sure you've probably covered it on the channel already, but are you liking what you're seeing there? Because I am.
10 million, right? Is that what you say? I thought he was. I thought he was good. Good debut. I liked the fact he looked like a Rodgers player already, and that's before Rodgers has really kind of got his hands on him. His movement off the ball was good. There was a clip down the rounds of, I think someone gave the ball away and he was the one who tracked back to win it off Shankland, I think. So, that's really promising as well. I thought there were bits of his game that were a little bit sloppy. I think in time that'll come. A couple of times he gave the ball away, but it was his debut. So I thought it was a good debut, and I think he'll build on that.
Yeah. It's always hard, what do you look for when you're judging a new player? It's quite difficult, isn't it? Because you don't really have a body of evidence to really hang your hat. And I think what I'm looking for, he just has a real awareness, I think, of his teammates and what's around him. I know he the first, say, 20 minutes or so, it was a bit quick for him, and I think that's when he gave the ball away a couple of times most. But I just had a sense that he was always aware of where his teammates were. He's always looking to kind of play quickly, a lot of little flicks, a lot of little passes. I think he's got a really good technique and movement. And I think those are just the raw things that you look to immediately and think you can build on that. And just also what I'm like in terms of thinking about mentality and how to play for Celtic. I think stepping up to take a penalty on your first start for Celtic is it's actually a really big thing, because the bravery to do that, especially when Rio Hatate was the established penalty taker and was the number one choice to take that penalty before the game. Apparently, Rodgers was saying after the game. And that's the way they practiced it the day before with Engels number 2. For kind of McGregor to kind of, I don't know how it transpired, but essentially Engels put his hand up and says, I want to take this. And quite reminiscent of the way Moussa Dembele did that when he first arrived if you remember, against Astana. Like that. Just that, and not obviously very different players, different positions, but just in terms of mentality, having what it takes to play for Celtic, a young player to come in and do that, I think is quite an impressive trait. So that I was very happy to see that as well.
But scoring as well, I mean, that's an obvious thing to say, but not just saying you're going to take it, but actually stepping up and scoring. Because when you say Dembele, I'm thinking of Giakoumakis stepping up for that Livingston penalty in the last minute and missing. So it was really important that he scored. I mean, let's not over dramatise things.
No.
If he had have missed, it's not as if we'd all be saying, "Oh, he should never play for the club." Like he would have survived it, but. Stepping up, in that moment, it was a tight game. We needed a goal from somewhere, and he took it really coolly as well. I don't, a bit like Lewis Palma in terms of the kind of nonchalant type penalty. I'd maybe like in future to see him, firing the ball at goal, because I think if the keeper says goes the right way, you might be in trouble. But I think he's going to take them going forward. So yeah.
Also interesting to note. Like, he did have a number of shots as well, and Rodgers is saying in interviews now that he wants him to be that goal-scoring midfielder. I know there was a little bit of question marks before he came in. Yeah, like, where is he going to fit in? Is he going to try to play deeper? He sometimes plays deeper for Augsburg. But Rodgers is, like, blatantly saying he wants him to be that goal-scoring midfielder that is basically a replacement for O'Reilly. So that's one to watch as well.
Who else would kind of... who
Defence
else would you pick out from the weekend? Yeah, defence is doing really well.
Yeah, Carter Vickers thinks, he's hitting his stride again. And again, Schmeichel, he did make that decent save at the end. I think the defence is going to be obviously so important in Europe. So it's good that they're already looking like a functional unit. Like Schmeichel doesn't really know his defenders, but he looks like he's been playing with them for years. It doesn't look like, remember when Joe Hart first arrived, it felt like there was a period of adjustment. Where he was kind of still getting to know defenders. It was kind of all a bit haphazard in possession at the back. I just think it looks really solid at the moment, in possession and out of possession, so that bodes well as well.
He's a strange one, Schmeichel, because he's doing fantastically. He's been great. I mean, he's not had a whole lot to do, but what he has had to do, I think, would agree, he's looked fabulous. I mean, I would say he's made one top save so far in the competitive games, and it was the one from McCausland, I think, at the end of the derby. That's the only real top save he's had to make, but he did it well. He's not quite as maybe like kind of bigger character as I felt Joe Hart was. Maybe behind the scenes he is, but you know what I mean, like in front of the cameras, I feel like he's kind of going under the radar a little bit, Kasper Schmeichel, as being just a really solid goalkeeper.
He's got that kind of relaxed Danish thing going on, doesn't he? Like the kind of Scandinavian, relaxed, cool customer, probably has a good sarcastic sense of humour. I mean, I like him. I really like him, and I really hope that he is the difference maker that we kind of need him to be at European level, and I think we will need him to be that, especially in those away matches against Dortmund, Atalanta. That's when you're looking for a Schmeichel to really, show up and be massive for us. So, hopefully that turns out to be the case.
Any concerns over the level of Alistair Johnson's performance? What was it, a one-off kind of poor game, or is there a concern that he's got a bit of a hamstring issue and that's what's affecting him?
I think I said before the game that I probably wouldn't have played him, because I just think, you had the Copa America and he played until the third place playoff there, so he was playing all summer. He barely had a break. Even on his break, he ended up appearing at a friendly just to watch us in America. So like... and then in the interviews when he came back, it was all he was saying, they're going to manage my game time over the next couple of months, etc, and it just doesn't seem to have happened at all. So I'm like just a little bit concerned we're playing a bit of Russian roulette with that hamstring. That's my only concern. I don't really have concerns about his performance levels as such, because I think he's had a really good start to the season. I'm just concerned that we're going to pay the cost of like that hamstring pinging, but I'm not on the medical staff at Celtic, so if there's confidence there that he can keep going, then he can keep going. But it just, from the outside looking in, it just feels a little bit, that's just a slight concern for me.
Yeah, I just felt as if, I mean, this is just my opinion, that he was maybe not 100% on Saturday, because he did seem quite off it, like noticeably so, because he's been so good so far this season. And I just wonder if Anthony Ralston coming in, maybe not for Wednesday night, but certainly moving forward could be a shout. Where are you with the midfield, John, for Wednesday night? Would you have? I think the consensus seems to maybe be that Bernardo should come in with Rio Hatate making way. What would you make of that?
I would edge towards that, but I just felt like Engels was kind of getting prepared for this on Wednesday. Maybe Rodgers was thinking he starts Engels on Saturday and then starts Paulo Bernardo on Wednesday. I mean, that makes sense to an extent, but it's also like, was he just giving Engels game time so that he's not dropped straight into a Champions League match? So, I mean, I think if I had to choose personally, if I was picking, I would probably go with Bernardo. He's probably a safer choice in that sense, and then bring Engels into the game in the second half. But I could see the argument for starting Engels as well. You know, we've just paid big money for him and he wants to be playing at this level, so Rodgers might see him as the way forward.
But Hatate's still in your team?
Yeah, I would have Hatate there. I know he didn't have the best of games on Saturday, but I think, you know, a stage like Wednesday night is going to be a good one for Hatate. That's my gut feeling on that.
Okay, right. That sets us up for Wednesday night then. And as always on Celtic AM, we want to do our research. And in terms of Slovan Bratislava, that means chatting to Marek Arpas, who is a football commentator. He's a host and he's a reporter based in Slovakia. And he's been following Slovan Bratislava this season and even commentated on some of their Champions League qualifiers. And he's been good enough to join us now. Hello, Marek. How are you?
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very well. Very well. Starting after holidays. So rough start for today, but getting into it slowly.
Fabulous. It's good to have you with us. We want to find out all about Slovan Bratislava ahead of Wednesday night's game. How big a deal is this game for Slovan Bratislava, but also for Slovakian football generally? I think 2010 was the last time you had a team in the Champions League proper, Zelina, at that stage.
That's correct. That's 14 years ago. A lot of time has passed since then. And it's a huge deal, not only this game against Celtic, but the whole being in the Champions League phase is a huge deal in the whole country, not only for the Slovan Bratislava fans. And they are looking forward to it. They are in form. They are very confident, and they want to do some good results for Slovakia. And I don't think that it's not possible. But we will get into the weaknesses, and one of them is squad depth. So once the key players start getting injured, it could be a problem for Slovan Bratislava.
Okay, tell us about qualifying then. I'm looking at the teams now. So they beat Struga from North Macedonia, and then Celje, and then Apoel Nicosia, and then Midtjylland in the playoff round. How was qualifying? I mean, they won 6-3 in aggregate, 6-1 in aggregate, 2-0 in aggregate, and 4-3. So pretty comprehensive.
First thing that is important to say is that Slovan Bratislava is the only team that get into the league phase from the first qualifying round.
Right.
And yeah, they were quite good in the games. I mean, we didn't expect it because they are getting older and older and they are not bringing in young players. But coach Vladimir Weiss, he managed to get all the key players on their maximum potential. And they are preserving it so far. So that's mainly why they get into the league phase. They beat Struga without any problems. Then there was Celje. Key moment in the first game was after 30 minutes, Savidis was sent off, and they managed to not lose in Slovenia.
Okay.
And at home, basically the same scenario, but the players who was sent off was a player of the opponent of NK Celje, and they completely destroyed them. Afterwards, Apoel, important goal of Robert Mack. People from Australia know the name because he used to play there. And yeah, there was the away game was mostly about not conceding the goal. Was very well organized, and they managed to get into the playoffs. And Midtjylland, that was very tough opponent, but again, as I said, they are at their maximum potential. The chemistry is working, and yeah, they, with the help of the home fans in the second leg, they managed to push through, and it's a huge success for Slovan Bratislava.
Yeah, John, I'm looking at their home games in the qualifying, and they won all of them. So it's probably a good thing that we're playing them in Glasgow and not in Bratislava.
Yeah, I mean, but I think they were, if I'm right in saying, I think they were also unbeaten in qualifying away from home, so they know how to get a result. And realistically, I mean, a draw for them on Wednesday is probably a fantastic result just to kind of get them going in this group stage. Just wanted to ask about the manager. I know that he's kind of been missing with a virus or an illness over the last couple of games. Do we know if he's going to be able to make the trip to Glasgow? And how much of an impact does that have? I mean, I know he's got an established assistant there, so it might not be too much of a big deal, but what's the kind of latest on that?
Yeah, it's not only about the last matches. He had some health issues for several years, but I'm pretty sure that he's going to be ready for the Wednesday game.
Okay.
And yeah, he's the most important person right now at the club, I would say. Out of all players, people that are leading the club, that Vladimír Weiss is the person you need to look at when you are looking at the Slovan Bratislava nowadays.
So they're not a team of superstars. It's a team. It's a team rather than a group of individuals.
Yes, I would say that this chemistry is one of the strengths, and Vladimír Weiss is the main person behind it. There are star players, if you can call it like that, not in the European way of thinking, but in our country and in our league. But yes, this experience, chemistry, organization, those will be the main key aspects in the game. And if you want to know my prediction, then I don't think that they have to lose on Wednesday. They could get a point or maybe 3. Everything depends on the actual form, and they are in form. Even though they lost to Žilina last weekend, that was
what happened?
That was very shame. Yeah, the getting into the Champions League happened, I would say.
Okay. Were they partying?
It was very partying. It was very demanding game when it comes to the, even mentally. So they just didn't show up in the game. That was 5-0. That's really, really harsh. But it was a good performance from Žilina. We have to say that. So, but one bad result, it doesn't change anything when we look at the results from the previous weeks and months. So they are playing very well, and I would say this is their peak. It's important what's going to happen after Champions League.
What players should we look out for? Celtic fans will know Vladimír Weiss from his time with Rangers. I know Robert Mack from Sydney, and he played for Ferencváros against Celtic a few years ago as well. I think Kevin Wimmer is a name, John, you might know, was at Tottenham Hotspur a few years ago. Would they be the main guys?
Not all of them. You said few good names. Vladimír Weiss is the captain of Slovan Bratislava. He's a very important player in the starting squad. But I would pinpoint different names. Dominik Takáč, goalkeeper. He came in the summer transfer window, and Slovan finally has a goalkeeper who is the real number one. He showed it in the several games so far, and basically he played a huge part in Slovan getting into the league phase. Tigran Barsegian, Armenian national player, great form, 8 goals, 1 assist, and he's really enjoying the game. David Strelec, Slovak national player. He has been great ever since he came back from Italy. He was in Spezia, and they managed to get him back, to basically buy him out. Marko Tolic, they managed to find him a place on the field, because at the beginning when he came on loan, they were trying to make Georgi Chakvetadze from him. That's the player who was there before, and they were replacing him basically. And now they understood that he's not going to play the same thing, to be this quick player who can tear the lines, but he's a playmaker. Now he has basically free hands to do, or free feet to do whatever he wants during the game, and he's enjoying it. His passes are terrific and has been terrific throughout this season. And Guram Kashia, that's the name we need to mention. That's another player from Georgia. Last season, he was very slow, and I thought that, yes, he's going to retire after this season, but I don't know what happened. He's a completely different player right now. He's, I would say, a key player in the defense, which is one weakness, I would say, because the squad depth is the thinnest in defense. They do not have center backs that could replace Guram Kasia on Kenan Bajric. The good thing is that they got a Ukrainian player, Ignatenko, who can play as a 6, basically, and Kenan Bajric can go back to the center back.
Okay, very interesting. I guess their approach is going to be interesting, John, on Wednesday night.
Yeah, I mean, the expectation would be that they come in and play quite defensively and on the counter-attack with quick wingers. Is that the case? Is the expectation that they're going to come to Scotland to try and play for a draw? Or are they coming, to try and shock Celtic and have a lot of possession in the match and kind of take the game to Celtic?
They will try to shock Celtic, definitely, because
Really?
they have nothing to lose. They can only surprise. And yes, you mentioned correctly that they have a very quick transition, and that's one of the main threats Celtic needs to be aware of. I'm sure they will be aware of this. So, yeah, quick transitions, but they won't be satisfied, with the intention to come to Glasgow and play for the draw. So I believe that they will try to play football, although they've been doing it so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, a team with belief is always a dangerous team to play. And I just think the fact that they've come through those 4 ties, Hamish, 4 ties of qualifying, and they've earned their spot here. They're not just here to turn up and just take the money. They feel like they've earned this, and I think that is what's going to be quite dangerous about Wednesday night.
Yeah. Marek, I wondered what the perception of Celtic and Celtic Park would be in Slovakia. What are people saying about this match?
We have a good memories of Celtic Park because
you cannot mention a certain word here. You're forbidden from mentioning a certain team who play in Bratislava.
I will not. But do you remember who was coaching the team?
Yeah, it was the same manager. It was Vlad.
Oh, was it?
It was the same manager.
Okay.
That was the same manager, and yeah, Celtic is probably, in the perception of Slovak fans, one of the teams we could shock and we could get a point from the game. Although Celtic has been dominant in the past years in Scotland, the most recent Old Firm derby showed it. So yeah, it's a very hard opponent, very skillful, and they can play football, but we all hope for a good result from the Wednesday match.
Just looking at their fixtures, John, so they've got Manchester City, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, Atletico Madrid, Stuttgart, Girona, Celtic and Dinamo Zagreb. So those are pretty tough. So you understand what Marek is saying when he's saying this is one of their better opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And I don't think, realistically, if you're Slovan Bratislava and you're looking at that fixture list, this is one of the games that you're thinking that you might be able to earn points in. So I can understand why they would come here and perhaps probably try to play a little bit more offensively than some might expect from a Celtic perspective.
Yeah, is there much known about Celtic's current form, Marek? Because Celtic were playing very well at the moment. We've won all 6 matches. I think 14 matches in a row we've won in all competitions going back to last season. So we're in quite a good place as well.
And they haven't conceded, so it's a very dangerous team. So it's not like they're going to Glasgow to win the game. I think the coach Weiss is very well aware of the strengths of the team, and he's not going to take them easily. So you can be sure that they are going to be prepared and they will do their best for the game. By the way, I'm commenting the game again, so looking forward to it.
Okay, from Slovakia, or are you going to Glasgow?
No, unfortunately, we are not going to Glasgow. I'll be commenting it from Czech Republic because there is a sister company of ours, and it's for the both markets, Czech Republic and Slovak Republic. So
how do you think the game's going to go? What would your prediction be?
I don't think that we'll see many goals. I think there will be only one. I don't dare to guess who is going to score it, but I think it's going to end up 1-0 either for Celtic or for Slovan Bratislava.
Okay, very interesting. Anything else, Marek? Any other secrets you can give away?
Maybe some weaknesses. I mentioned the squad depth, but also pace in defense.
Okay.
Because the Zuberu Sharani, the left back, got injured in the first game against Midtjylland. He's all right by now. He played a few minutes in the last game during the weekend, but I don't think that he's going to start from the very beginning. So on the left back is going to be Kevin Wimmer. You mentioned him, the former player of Tottenham Hotspur. And he's not the fastest. He's not going to be supporting the offense that much as Sharani would do. And, center backs, 37 years old, Guram Kashia, who is great this season, but you can't do anything with age. Okay. And Kenan Bajric is pretty pacey. On the other side, there is Cesar Blackman, and he rather support offense than defense, so that's probably the way. Okay,
very interesting. John, have you got anything else for Marek?
No, just to concur, I do think it's going to be a tight game. I don't think this is, it's certainly not a walkover of any sort for Celtic whatsoever. I think the fact that they haven't been beaten away from home in Europe this year says a lot. And I don't think it's going to be a case of, they're going to be overawed by Celtic Park. I know it's going to be loud and sold out, but I don't think that is, from what Marek's saying, is going to be the case just because they're a tight unit. They've got a kind of iconic manager who galvanises them. I think they're going to be right up for this, and I think it's going to be quite tight, and I think it will be won by an odd goal, but I'll say 1-0 Celtic rather than 1-0 Slovan Bratislava.
Okay. Marek, thank you so much for coming on and chatting to us. I really appreciate it, and hopefully you get a good game to commentate on.
Thank you for having me, guys.
That was Marek Arpas joining us there for a chat, John. The stuff he's saying at the end about the maybe slightly slow defenders, and I'm thinking Nicholas Kuhn, and I'm thinking Daisen Maeda, and I'm thinking Kyogo Furuhashi. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, of course. But the point that I think, that I'm taking from that is, are they going to give us the space to do that? It sounds like they're going to play quite a counter-attacking style, as Marek said, very quick transitions, tricky wingers. The Armenian winger he mentioned has scored, like he said, 8 goals this season and is playing really well. And you just have flashbacks. There's a lot of European nights at Celtic where you just have flashbacks of one winger streaking away past the halfway line with one-on-one with a goalkeeper and no Celtic defender in sight. And it's just something that has popped up quite often in Europe, and you worry a little bit about that. I'm not saying, Celtic are right up against it against Slovan Bratislava. I think we'll be very competitive in the game, and I think we're favourites for a reason. But I certainly don't think it's going to be a thrashing of any sort. I'm very much in the camp that it's going to be a very tight game, and we'll have to work really hard for any goals that come our way. But Nicholas Kuhn, Kyogo, aging defenders, it does whet the appetite to an extent.
Properly kind of nervous for the game now. I know we're a wee bit out from kick-off, but when you actually hear about the opposition, and I think the fact that we're playing, a winning team, we're playing the champions of a country, which I always think really, presents its challenges. And I think we've got 4 of the teams we face in this new Champions League are champions of their country. So, I think something about that guy Tigran Barsegyan, the Armenian guy. There's something about him gives me the fear. So hopefully that doesn't play out. Anything else, John, ahead of the game? We'll get the press conferences from Rodgers and a player as well.
Yeah, I love the Champions League routine. I love that it's all set in the same way with just the kind of open press conferences, all the training pictures. I love the Champions League. I love Europe. I love Celtic playing in Europe. I wish that happened more often. I'm very excited about this. Domestic football is what it is at the moment, and Celtic are so dominant. But this is the game where it feels like anything can happen. You don't really know how it's going to go. I think anything could happen to Celtic in these 8 games, and I think the unknown of that is as exciting as anything. And I think we should relish that and cherish that, because I think over the last few years, it's at risk of becoming slightly routine sometimes. But I don't think this level of competition is ever routine, whether it's Slovan Bratislava, Dortmund, even if it'd been drawn against Man City or Barcelona, who we've faced before. So I'm very hopeful, I'm very excited, and hopefully the team turn up and with that energy too and really show, because I think they've got a point to prove here. I really do think they have a point to prove in Europe. I think Rodgers has the point to prove in Europe, and I just hope they have that energy and that kind of fire in them on Wednesday night.
Can't wait for it. Listen, this seems like the last video we're going to have before the game, but it's not. There'll be another one tomorrow morning. We'll have the chat from the press conferences and all of that stuff that'll be on later today. But yeah, the buzz is getting real. The UEFA Champions League is very nearly upon us. As I say, it begins tonight. I think there's some pretty good games. AC Milan, Liverpool, possibly one of them. But the real stuff's tomorrow when Celtic take on Slovan Bratislava. John, thanks once again for coming on and sharing your thoughts. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow morning.